mom's making fried chicken and collards and sweet potato biscuits. So I think you're going to have plenty to eat tonight.
Zara is 13 years old. She and her parents live in Fayetteville, Arkansas with her 3 younger siblings.
It is. It's very long days.
Tell me a little bit about your school. Are people welcoming and accepting, open?
No, not a lot of people are welcoming. We have had some problems here just considering it's Arkansas, but there are just a couple friends I do trust and that do accept, thankfully.
Zara is one of hundreds of young people in the state whose healthcare is now outlawed by an unprecedented bill banning all gender-affirming medical care for trans youth.
Arkansas passing a bill blocking gender-affirming care for trans youth. It would ban access to things like reversible puberty blockers and hormones.
A veto for the transgender-focused SAFE Act bill.
The governor said this bill is government overreach.
One day after his veto, the House and Senate both vote to override his veto, making this bill a law.
House Bill 1570 denies access to medical care including puberty blockers, which are reversible and delay the onset of puberty, and hormone therapy, which triggers a patient's desired physical changes. Both are critical to a medical transition. This year alone, 22 states have introduced legislation similar to this law in Arkansas. Doctors who specialize in this care across the country and leading national organizations like the American Academy of Pediatrics and the American Medical Association are warning of this bill's lethal consequences.
Just after this bill passed the House, these kids heard about it. I've had multiple kids in our emergency room because of an attempted suicide, just in the last week.
Sweet potato biscuits.
You excited? Can't ever tell the teenager energy. It's like...
Mo and Jasmine are both members of a parents group that offers support to trans youth and their families.
No homework?
Yeah.
For real?
Yes.
And Jasmine is a mental health therapist who specializes in care for LGBTQIA folks.
I guess there's only two teachers out of all of them that respect pronouns.
The lack of training and competency is just it's a lot. I've been on the phone several nights really late with moms and parents. The only thing that I have been able to do is just tell them that we're not gonna abandon them. We'll stay and be with them and we'll keep organizing and taking care of each other. But we've got conservative Baptist moms who are why would the state do this to us?
How are you handling conversations with Zara? I mean, has it been difficult just talking through this bill?
We've been very candid with her.
Obviously, her first response and main concern was just how is she going to continue to receive care? And we had to be very direct and honest with her that she wasn't. That this bill is going to stop her from doing that.
So our plans will be to fly her to Massachusetts and have her evaluated with a pediatric specialist there. They will be the care providers that transition her onto her cross-sex hormones.
Essentially, she's going to be a medical refugee of her own state.
You can pass the food.
I'll start the passing of the call, please.
I'm ready for those.
When Zara was 8 years old, she started taking hormone blockers, which paused her male puberty from progressing.
Zara, Renee.
Should I get everyone a knife?
Okay. She's now having to consider her reality without them.
What would it feel like for you if you weren't able to get access to your treatment anymore?
Before then, I was very depressed and suicidal. If my treatment had stopped, then that would just happen. Not just with me, but if you saw this with anyone that had their treatment stopped, you would probably see a lot of depression, a lot of suicidal thoughts in them. It's really hard to not get what you need when it's one of the things you need the most.
Dr. Janet Cathy has worked with trans patients for more than 30 years and in the past treated trans youth at the most critical stages of their transition.
What is the rate of suicide attempts among trans youth?
Most of the statistics you'll say is up to 40% will have at least one suicide attempt. And it's not uncommon at all that I see a young adult who has a history of of suicide attempts.
Dr. Kathy started the first transgender clinic at the University of Arkansas and now treats adults at Planned Parenthood. She's one of only a few doctors treating the trans community statewide.
By not being with the gender group you identify with, there's a socialization process that they miss. And we want them to be healthy, functioning adults. And we're not creating functioning, healthy adults by depriving them of these hormones.
So if a mom calls you, her child is suicidal because they don't have access to their blockers, she's looking for advice, let's say once the law is implemented, can you give her options?
To the letter of the law, no. I guess I'd say you're just going to have to Google, and there's not any way I can help you. I think technically that's the way it would have to be.
I mean, what does it feel like for you as a physician to have your hands tied in that way when you know that could be literally a life and death conversation?
I've never had to face this situation like that. A bathroom bill, it's sending a hateful message, but it's not entering a physician-patient relationship, whereas this actually does.
Do families, have the option to just wait a few months or a few years in order to get their kids this treatment?
It's time-sensitive treatment. If you don't stop puberty blockers before puberty, they're not going to be effective,
Ever.
The decision to do puberty blockers or to start hormone therapy is made after, months and years of working with therapists and with doctors in the field. I mean, parents don't walk in and say, I think my child needs estrogen. Okay, well, let's write them a prescription for estrogen. It doesn't work that way. But that's what is being perpetuated.
My posters and stuff are in the car still, so.
While some families are moving out of state to access treatment, many parents can't afford to. Brandy Evans is struggling to find a safe, affordable option for her son, Drew.
I hope one day there is a final rally, like we don't have to do this anymore, but that's not going to happen in my lifetime, I don't think.
No, probably won't happen in mine.
Before he received hormone therapy, Drew was suicidal. After, Brandy says, the weight of his severe depression lifted.
I'd say like a month to 2 months in, I started seeing that kid come back, come out of his shell, talk to us more, laugh.
What did that feel like as a mom?
It was like, that's it. This has been the answer all along. Why would anybody want to take that away from them? Why? And take that right away as a parent. I don't see anybody.
This law will likely go into effect in a few months. How will you get your son the treatment he needs?
So we're looking at out-of-state care, either busing these kids every so often or via Zoom, because a lot of things are telemed right now anyway.
The issue with telemed, though, is actually receiving the drugs, right?
Right.
Does it worry you receiving hormones from a place that you're not able to vet?
Yeah, it really worries me, especially if it's in an international situation. Not that I don't trust them, but if it's not, because we have FDA. I don't know what they have in other countries.
Oh yes, the oppressive building of the state.
Self-administering hormone treatment from unvetted sources can be extremely dangerous. Without a doctor monitoring the patient, dosages could be off and drugs could be mislabeled.
They are taking medication I need away from me. It's kind of like taking insulin away from a diabetic person.
Is there anything that concerns you about having to go to, a source that's unvetted?
Fighting for so long wears you down to the point where if you can get your hands on hormones, you're gonna take them. Regardless of how unsafe the journey might be, you're gonna take them if you can get your hands on them.
We have to fight for trans rights. We have to fight for trans rights. We have to fight for trans rights. Thank y'all. Yes. Yes. And the key.
The bill will go into effect by early August unless the courts give an injunction. The ACLU is preparing a lawsuit, but in the immediate term, youth are turning out at protests to send a message to legislators.
We're here, we're queer, we have no fear. We're here, we're queer, we have no fear. We're here, we're queer.
From a parent to a parent, what do you want to say to these legislators?
I can't. That's the only thing I've got left to say. I've tried to appeal to their senses. I've tried to appeal to their heart. They don't have one, so f you. There's no reason why you should be butting into my care for my child.